coach everyone to adjust. Game time adjustments happen, so I appreciate it. What you got?
We'll go rapid fire. So how did Jalen Ramsey sustain the knee injury that surfaced on the injury report yesterday, and do you expect him to play Sunday?
Something that came up during practice, so we'll see how it plays out today. Either way, I don't rule out Warriors like he is an integral part of our team. So I know he'll do what he is able to do today, and we'll be optimistic for the game, knowing that if he doesn't play, it's because he can't.
What about Robert Jones?
He had a good day yesterday. Feel optimistic about that for a game.
You have three players who could come back this week with Blake Ferguson, McMorris, Wynn. Any in play for Sunday, or all more likely down the line?
I think it's more likely, week by week, but I think that's more likely a possibility in the next coming weeks than this week.
And how about the calf for Alec? I'm sure he wanted to play on Monday. Is he better this week, or do you think you will have him?
No, he's better this week. Again, just making sure that we don't have a setback. He didn't have a setback yesterday, so we're hoping for no setbacks today or tomorrow.
And with the David Long thing, just to clarify that.
I didn't know. No. Just let the guys know when they can work.
I'm sorry.
They just.
I was just filling awkward space. The Long decision. Did David or his agent David Mulugeta ask you or Chris for his release, or was that purely a team decision?
It was a team decision. I think didn't anticipate. The scenario that came across. With Dodson being available, didn't anticipate that. Absolutely love David Long as a person and a player, but had to make the decision that was best for the Miami Dolphins.
And Julian Hill, how's the shoulder? What's the outlook for him?
He had a good day. I'm very optimistic for his participation, and if he has a setback, I will be yelling at some defensive players during practice. So if you hear my voice, it's because they set Julian back.
Mike, I was thinking about doing something on the power of recall for coaches, and I'm wondering how many plays can you recall? How far back can you recall since 2022 as a head coach? Every play.
Every play. No. In terms of are you talking about can I recall from seasons before? I think the toughest time for me to recall something is directly after the game because I'm trying to stay in the moment. So post-game press conferences are always a challenge because I'm changing from in the moment to reflection. But once I see the tape and stuff, there's a good amount of recall, specifically because you're in the same system, and as a play caller, you kind of feel the burden of the result and the whys of that result that kind of stick with you. I think that's part of the advantage of experience and having recall on certain defenses, certain situations. From concepts to how our players perform, it resurfaces itself every single game and every single game prep. But there'll be a play call that I have this game that will be based upon something that I know our players can execute and perform based upon a previous example that's happened since I've been here. So unfortunately. To have one of these positions in the National Football League, you kind of have to be obsessed, and so I don't know how to do a lot of things around the house, and can't recall how to what the cook time is on a hot pocket or something, but I can remember plays for sure.
So last week you guys had 53 plays, right?
Mm-hmm.
how many of those could you recall today? Now that you've seen I know you're preparing for a different opponent, but could you recall 42 of them or?
Yeah, I would say there's, you can recall to the point of the order, pretty much all of them besides maybe like 5 or 10. I'm not to the extreme of like a Sean McVay that can rattle off the exact time and situation and hash. But for the most part, it's important to my job that I do remember things, the succession of them, what opponents have seen, what they've studied. I mean, you have to do it all the time because when it's earned first down on the 35-yard line going in, part of the decision, or you're making a play call decision based upon your anticipated defensive play call, which has to do both with what they like to do and what we've done in the past. So that's why I'm a terrible conversation on game day.
Yeah. And I know covering golf, golfers can recall, pretty much every stroke. And I wonder if you ever get to the paralysis by analysis point. Do you ever have, when you're recalling down and distance situations and defenses?
Yeah, that's when you see us burn a timeout for no reason. That's when it is. That's when the overload occurred, and it took me too long to get the play in. Yeah.
On a more serious note,
I think that's pretty serious.
Thank you,
have doctors recommended with Kendall Fuller, because it is a second concussion in 2 months, that he miss extended time like doctors suggested with Tua?
Haven't gotten that feedback. Also don't have a timeline. I do know he was feeling based upon the previous situation where he was at in the timeline. He felt better than he did previously. So henceforth the medical experts did not feel as though the timeline, whatever that was absolutely necessitating that automatic 4-week out. So it's week to week based upon the advice of the medical experts, as well as the feedback from Kendall and how and what he's feeling, because that's the most important thing.
In gold, how's he doing?
Well, he's doing well. What does that mean for the game? Today, like, soft tissues are, particularly with, guys that are not on the line of scrimmage, but major in blocking, like Alec Ingold, where you have to run before your contact point and come out of your snap with come off the ball with absolute suddenness and stuff. You're always wary of the feedback of the next player, the next outing, or the next practice. So we'll be conservative but prudent to see where he's at. I feel good about him. That kind of makes it 50-50 for me for the game, just based on having 2 more days to get through and where that leads us.
If somebody would have told you back in August that Tyreek and Jalen would have a per game average of 90 yards, what would you have said?
I guess I don't really go into things forecasting. However, I would have found it interesting. I would have thought either 2 things. First and foremost, how our defense is playing us, and they must be giving them a lot of attention. And then I would have thought, how are we executing against those looks? If we're not having production on offense, it's we're not taking advantage of whatever scenarios that are keeping them from getting the ball. I guess nothing surprised me. I would just be looking at, how's the rest of our offense executing? Because that's, if we're not getting yards from them, yards and points better be coming from somewhere. So I think that's been one of the great things about the adversity from this season is how instead of doing what a lot of people can and have done that I've seen in the past, where there's dwelling on numerical values that aren't W's and L's. I've seen guys get better. I've seen I think our line of scrimmage play from Tyreek and Waddle is the best that it's been since I've been here, in terms of releasing and using their footwork. And I think there's another level of understanding of the timing of our offense based upon the challenging looks they've gotten. And I think that overall it's forced our team to get better across the board, which I think is an overall win for our entire motives this offseason has been finding ways to get better during the season so that our best football is at the end when it matters most.
Mike, a general question. You guys had 2 phantom whistles at Seattle. I know that's going way back. I'm wondering, did you turn that into the league? And because I know that won't affect the outcome of the game. Mm-hmm. If I turned it into the league, it would be so that I knew the league was aware and so that I knew the league would address it. Have you heard from the league, and what is your why when you turn something in?
We're the same guy. And by the way, I'm really interested in, you got some stuff cooking in the hopper here with these. The angles you're coming at me means you're doing some, so I think it's there's twofold in that whole process. One, you're communicating with the league to make sure that you understand the rules appropriately so that you can articulate it to your players. And 2, you're trying to make them aware of something if they feel like it was inappropriately called or whatever. My memory serves me appropriately at this point because I can't remember what they said at this point, and I wouldn't want to, make enemies with the National Football League and just put them on blast at the podium. Like that serves nobody's purpose. But, realistically, that is part of our weekly procedure. We do it with all things called or not called. That way I can best inform players to put them in position for success, not failure in the future, because you can't really, I'm not it's not my operating procedure to dwell. So I think that's part of the league's process. That's very healthy because you need to be able to move forward and give your players clarity. And I don't, we try not to leave anything in the hands of the officials, but you have to understand how to stay within the rules and what we should do in the event that something like a faulty whistle or inadvertent or a fan whistle does occur.